Amelia was used to being invisible. Just another waitress moving between tables in a fancy Savannah restaurant. But hidden behind her quiet smile was a gift no one in that room could have guessed, the kind of talent that could stop time. That Friday night, an arrogant millionaire walked in, ready to make her the punchline of his joke. What he didn't know was that his challenge would unlock something powerful. And by the time she played her final note, the entire restaurant would be on its feet, and Amelia's life would never be the same. It's about a young woman, a wealthy man with too much pride, and a piano that changed everything. It was a warm Friday evening in Savannah, Georgia. Inside the Silver Lantern, an upscale restaurant in the heart of the city, the air shimmered with the hum of conversation. Crystal glasses clinked gently. Soft jazz drifted from a polished grand piano in the corner. The smell of roasted garlic and butter floated through the room. It was the kind of place where everything was perfect, and everyone knew it. Amelia Reyes wove between tables with the kind of quiet grace that goes unnoticed until you really pay attention. 26 years old, dressed in a crisp white shirt and black apron, she balanced trays like they were weightless, smiling politely at every table she passed. To the diners, she was just another waitress. But to herself, she was something else entirely. Because Amelia's heart didn't live in this restaurant. Her heart belonged to the piano. She'd been playing since she was a little girl, back when her family lived in a small apartment, back when her mother, a seamstress, came home with tired hands but still asked Amelia to play something before bed. They didn't have much. Just an old second-hand upright piano, a little out of tune, sitting in the corner of the living room. Amelia taught herself by ear. At first, it was little melodies from the radio. Then she found music books in thrift stores and learned every piece she could. By the time she was a teenager, she was playing at church services, school concerts, community events. People told her she had something rare. But talent doesn't always pay the rent. When college came, the scholarships didn't. Her mother needed help with bills, and Amelia's dreams of studying music were packed away for someday. That's how she ended up here, at the Silver Lantern. And yes, the paycheck mattered, but so did the piano in the corner. Even if she almost never touched it, knowing it was there, that mattered. That night, as Amelia carried a tray of drinks toward table 9, the atmosphere shifted. The door opened, and in walked Victor Callahan. You could tell by the way people turned their heads that he was someone. Tall. Expensive suit. Hair too perfect to be accidental. He had the sort of confidence that doesn't just enter a room, it takes the room over. Victor was a tech millionaire. Rich, arrogant, and a little too aware of both. The staff stiffened when they saw him. They'd dealt with him before. He wasn't the kind of man who blended into the background. He took his seat with 3 companions, all dressed just as sharply, laughing a little too loud. But then his gaze landed on Amelia. And for a moment, he just looked. Then he smirked. When Amelia came over with the wine list, he glanced at her name tag. "So, Amelia," he said, drawing out her name as though he owned it. "What do you do when you're not carrying plates? Surely a young woman like you has dreams." She hesitated. Customers didn't usually ask personal questions like that. "I play piano sometimes," she said quietly, already turning to leave. But Victor leaned back in his chair, eyes gleaming like he'd found something to play with. "A pianist? How charming. Why don't you play something for us?" "I couldn't," Amelia replied quickly. "I'm here to work tonight." "Nonsense," he said, his voice booming loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "There's a piano right there." "Oh," and here came the smirk again. "Are you afraid you all talk and no talent?" The words hit her like a slap. She glanced at her co-workers, hoping someone might jump in, but they avoided her eyes. And then, from somewhere deep in her memory, she heard her mother's voice, "Never let anyone make you small." She looked at Victor, looked at the piano, then back at Victor. "Fine," she said, her voice calm but certain. "I'll play." The room went quiet. Every fork seemed to pause mid-A. Amelia set down her tray and walked toward the piano. The chandelier cast a warm glow over her as she sat down. Her fingers hovered above the keys, trembling just enough that she hoped no one could see. And then, she began to play. The first notes were soft, almost like she was whispering to the piano instead of playing it. It was Clair de Lune, a piece she'd played 100 times alone in her apartment. But this time, it felt different. Every sound seemed to float in the air a little longer than it should. A couple near the front stopped eating. Somewhere in the back, a glass clinked, then silence settled over the room. Amelia's hands were still trembling, but the longer she played, the steadier they became. She wasn't thinking about Victor anymore. She wasn't thinking about the customers or the polished tables or the weight of all those eyes on her. She was thinking about the nights she'd played in her childhood bedroom, with the rain tapping the window. About the times her mother would close her eyes and sway to the music because it made her forget how tired she was. About the years she'd been told maybe later when it came to chasing her dream. The melody began to swell. Her fingers glided over the keys like they belonged there. And the room, the whole restaurant, was hers. People leaned forward in their chairs. Conversations had stopped completely. Even Victor, who had been sitting back in smug amusement, now had his chin resting on his hand, eyes fixed on her. She didn't look at him. She didn't look at anyone. The music was enough. By the time she reached the final notes, her chest was tight, not from fear, but from release. She pressed the last chord, and for a moment there was nothing but silence. Then, the applause hit. It started with a few people, then the whole room erupted. Some stood to their feet. Others whistled and cheered. Amelia sat there for a second, stunned, before standing and giving a small nod. Behind her, Victor clapped slowly. But the smirk was gone. That was unexpected, he said with a chuckle that didn't quite sound like confidence. I suppose talent comes from the most surprising places. Amelia met his eyes and said, steady and calm, everyone has a gift. It's how you choose to use it that matters. You could feel the shift in the room. The power he'd walked in with, gone. The rest of the night, people stopped Amelia to tell her how beautiful her playing was. Her tips were more than double what she usually made. And when she delivered Victor's check, he muttered, "You've made your point." "It was never about proving anything to you," she replied. "I just wanted to play." He didn't answer. Minutes later, he and his group slipped out quietly, no grand exit this time. A week later, Amelia's phone rang. It was a man who had been in the restaurant that night, a music producer from Atlanta. He wasn't promising stardom, but he wanted her to record a demo. It wasn't everything, but it was something. And Amelia was ready to take it. She thought back to that moment when Victor tried to make her small. How she could have said no. How she almost did. And she realized, that night wasn't about him. It was about her finally stepping into the space she'd been avoiding for years. As she closed the lid on her apartment's old upright piano, she smiled. Her journey was far from over, but this time she wasn't going to hide behind fear. And maybe that's the thing you should take from this story. Don't wait for someone like Victor to test you. Don't wait for the moment you're cornered. Take your step now. Because sometimes, the thing that changes your life isn't the challenge itself. It's having the courage to answer it.